Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. It is a beautiful, breezy November morning here in Brisbane, and I have a delicious, creamy, warm cup of coffee with me to accompany me on my chat with you all. I know it's been about a week since my last upload, and I have been thinking about needing to upload a video for you guys. So apologies that it has taken me a little longer than expected. I also work and it's been taking up quite a lot of my time and just life in general, and I guess it is what it is. So I've decided that today I'm going to upload I'm going to give you two reviews of books from the Booker 2020 because the announcement is going to be on Friday, which is Thursday UK. I'm pretty sure 7 p.m. UK time, which is about 5 a.m. Brisbane time. So I thought, well, I need to hurry along with my video uploads and reviews, so I'm going to put up two reviews in this video. So I hope you have a nice cup of coffee or a tea with you as well. But I hope you're all doing really well. I am very excited about the Booker announcement. I have now read all of the Booker shortlist books except for This Mournable Body, where I'm actually about halfway through, and I'm pretty sure I'll be able to finish this before the announcement. So I will be able to, if not put a review, at least give you my thoughts on where I think this book is going, either tomorrow or before the Booker announcement. But I have to say that I have not yet come across, unless this body absolutely changes its course for me, I have not yet come across the most life-changing book, unfortunately. I know for a lot of people they have found one of the, like, a 10 out of 10 book and have just been so happy and just raving about the books that they've read. I have been, I guess, not disappointed, I guess just more so like meh. I was expecting a little bit more from these books this year, or maybe they just haven't grabbed me the way that I thought that they would, but I'm so pleased for people who have been on YouTube just absolutely letting us know about the love for books that they have found whilst reading the shortlist. So yeah, I guess that kind of gives you a quick roundup of my thoughts on the next two books that I'm going to review, and that is Shuggie, Bain and The Shadow King. And this is a debut novel by Douglas Stewart, and I was really excited to read this book because I really love character plots. I love books about families and I guess the drama of what life can unfold, and how love can really how love prevails really in dramatic family stories. So I was really excited to start Shuggie, Bain, and I actually have a really good memory of where I finished reading this book. I was on holiday actually, and I don't know if you all have a similar I guess a nostalgia about the books that you've read and where you started or finished them, or if they were a holiday read, or I seem to remember books by where I started reading them or finished reading them, but yeah, anyway, I digress. So I finished reading this book on holiday, and I remember thinking about the book on the drive back home, which was only about an hour and a half, and I was just pondering and thinking about my thoughts and my reflections, because this was a book that I had really high hopes and expectations for. On Goodreads, I think out of all of the 6 shortlisted books, this has the highest rating and also the most reviews, which I found really interesting. And I guess because it is a book that many people can relate to, this isn't a story that hasn't been told before, and it comes in so many different forms. And I, and for that reason, I thought that I was onto a winner for this. And so it starts off, so the book starts with the ending. So we are taken into Shuggie Bain's life at a very young teenage time of his life, and we kind of we're already put. We're already given a really good understanding of where he is at, what life experiences he's had, and I guess the childhood and the trauma that has involved for him. And with the start of a book, and with when a book starts with the ending, I find it very hard to continue to enjoy the book, and the author needs to give me a really good plot to be able to keep me interested, because I already know what is going to happen. And I guess this is a different style of book where Douglas takes you forward and back, so that you can get a really good understanding on the experiences that Shuggie Bain had. But one thing that's really important to note about this book is that Shuggie Bain is as much about his mother Agnes as it is about Shuggie Bain. Agnes is a beautiful woman who always holds herself immaculately, and I think there is a part of the text where she is I think one of her absolute idols is Elizabeth Taylor. So her hair is always slicked back. She wears the most beautiful clothes. She's always well groomed, and that's just a very good image and a portrayal of a life that Agnes really wanted to live. So she had such high expectations for herself and her family. She wanted a great life. She wanted a beautiful life. She wanted a supportive, loving husband. She wanted to be in the limelight. She wanted to live in a beautiful home that was furnished lovely and beautifully. So, and when all of those are not, pretty much everything she ever wanted was not going to happen for her. And we are brought on her journey of getting more and more and more dependent on alcohol. And this is a really powerful account of alcoholism, and probably one of the most powerful accounts I have ever read. And I was very connected to Agnes. I was very connected to Shuggie Bain. I also had a deep respect for his brothers, Catherine and Leek, brothers and sisters, Catherine and Leek, because they were all suffering and experiencing the same things as Shuggie. And Shuggie, being the youngest, had the most hopes for his mother and really wanted him or her to always recover. And I guess that's I guess that's a summary of the book. You know, we are dealing with the youngest, his mother suffering from a terrible addiction to alcohol, and we are drawn into their lives, and it's basically a really great account and story of what happens to a family whose mother is terribly addicted to alcohol and is raising children under strict poverty, and in the midst of Thatcher times, where so many of her policies had dramatically and severely impacted so many Scottish people, which brought such immense poverty. And so we're brought into that era, and I really enjoyed reading and exploring that era with the characters. I haven't actually read a lot about Thatcher and her time. So I was really drawn into the lives, and I felt like I was sitting on the couch with Agnes and Shuggie. I felt like I was in the minefields. I felt like I was in the cab with Shug as he's rolling around the streets, the grimy, rainy, cold nights. Douglas does paint a great picture, and his writing style is very detailed. He is incredibly, everything is deliberate. He has a great writing style, and one that I actually really enjoyed reading, but I did find that it was slow at times. And I guess when you have a book that, it's the writing, we've got how many pages here? We've got just over 400 pages. And I was, I guess, expecting for perhaps the speed of events to, fasten a little bit more than they do. This was at times quite hard to continue reading because, as I said, even though this is a great account of alcoholism, a lot of the events are predictable. We know that we're going to reach a breaking point. We know that there's going to be so much struggle and a test of patience along the way. There's going to be betrayal, lies. We're going to have immense periods of love and sadness. So I was happy to go along with the ride because I do enjoy books like that. But as I mentioned, I just found that the events were predictable. And I did find the ending predictable because I guess we knew it from the beginning, but more so just I kind of understood very quickly how we were going to get there. And I guess this is just one of those books where it felt almost like a TV series. We are brought into the lives of these characters and we are just moving with the motions, and we are getting a really good insight as to, what love ultimately does do to prevail and to provide, comfort in times of absolute need and struggle. And Douglas has he's really great at being so descriptive on, very much like Avni, the description of, bodily fluids and it's so visceral, and there are moments where you're just like, oh, like, Agnes, why are you doing this? And poor Shuggie. And Shuggie is definitely, someone I absolutely admired, even for his young age. He was so strong, and someone who was coming to understand himself sexually, and what he stood for, what his purpose was within his family, with his older brothers and sisters, how he was meant to care for his mother. And also just, who he could trust. There were so many people within the poverty-stricken neighborhoods that they grew up in that he just couldn't turn to, he couldn't trust, and he very quickly developed an intuition that I guess prevailed for him, and ultimately Agnes did rely on him for much of her problems in life and her general addictions. The men surrounding the women in this book were highly powerful and were definitely the head, the neck of the home. Women found it really difficult to be themselves, to explore themselves, to be what they wanted to be without the restriction limitations of the males within their families and their households. And that's really evident in Shug. And even though Agnes's father was a lovely man and was described as, a really loyal father, he ultimately always was the head of the home and made the decisions for Agnes's mother, and Agnes's mother absolutely idolized him. And I guess that was also very evident in Leek, who, as a male himself, was really trying to make something for himself because he didn't have the greatest male role models. Yet, he understood that he was going to be ultimately a provider for a family of his one day, and that really shaped the way that he was so distant and seeking solitude from his home. I enjoyed the story. I felt it was very emotional, very deep, and I know that this book is also an autobiographical fictional novel of Douglas Stewart, so I can imagine this holds such a special place for Douglas, who he himself had experienced many of these traumatic events. So I really enjoyed the story itself, and I have a huge appreciation for these sorts of dramatic plots. I just found it really hard to continue reading because like I said, I felt that a lot of it was going to be predictable in nature, and it was almost a bit of a chore to get through. And for that reason, I've given this book a 5 or 6 out of 10. But I know that for a lot of people, this was just absolutely amazing. And like I said, on Goodreads, it's the most highly rated. This could definitely be a contender for the winner of the Booker. Um, I I didn't relate to it as much as I wanted to, but I can definitely see how it is a winning book. So that's my review of Shuggie Bain. Now on to the Shadow King and a sip of coffee. So I don't even know where to begin with the Shadow King. This was an exhausting book in lots of ways. It is so well written. The prose is lyrical. I felt like I was in a song the entire time. She's got an incredible writing style, and it is unique, and probably the most unique of all the shortlisted books, which I really appreciated because I love that literary offering and that different style of writing. But because of that, and the way that it was written, it was also very hard to keep up with, because we are drawn onto such an enormous landscape of emotions. We are a quick synopsis. So we are brought to the book starts with Hirut, who is the main character, who was orphaned at a young age and employed by an official of the Emperor of Ethiopia named Kidane as a maid in his household. And we start with Hirut in a train station holding a box full of photos and war memorabilia. And the entire book, this book has a different way of writing about war that I've ever seen before, because we are diving deep into photographs and in letters, and there is a great account of the times and the experiences that the Ethiopians and the Italians had during this time of Mussolini's rising. And I just found that I just really appreciated that. I really loved how we were basically spilling over photos and going through pictures and time snaps of really pivotal moments of the war. And because of the way that this book explores also light and dark, the name The Shadow King, and Ettore, the photographer, who ultimately uses light to capture very intense and sometimes the most traumatic and ferocious events on his camera. It is so detailed. We are taken on quite a journey, and Marza Mengiste is a great author and someone who really had a great skill to be able to bring readers on this journey of watching these characters go through one of the most pivotal times of history, and we're just watching them unfold and change and grow heavier in time as the issues and the issues of war continue to rise. And I really appreciated the lyrical prose. I really appreciated the looking through photos and the letters, and I appreciated the choruses and the verses and the interludes that the book was broken up into. And the choruses were moments in time where the most pivotal or dramatic events were happening, and every well, I wouldn't even call them chapters, every part of the book very slowly draws an incredible picture and an in-depth view of the characters and feelings and their behaviors, and ultimately how they react to situations that are happening. And because it was quite a slow moving text, I did find it really difficult to keep up with. I found it really overbearing at times, and the prose was really difficult to keep up with, in the sense that, you know, a lot of the characters have are referred to by two different names, their first and last name, throughout the entire book, and it was really hard to just keep up with which character we were referring to. And there are a lot of characters in this book, and also because of the prose and the writing style, I found it very hard to really connect and understand the characters, especially Harut, who I found was really unattainable. I could not really grasp her. She was just so close, but then just so out of reach. I never really truly understood her, but I knew what she stood for. The book is a great account of women and power, and we don't really hear a lot of I don't think there are stories about ever of women fighting in war, on the battlefields, on the front line, you know, running with guns, running with knives, and killing. And ultimately, this is what these women did. And I found that fascinating and inspiring. But I also felt that many people have described this book as a feminist view or a female view of war, but I felt like the male characters were just as strong in these books as the women. Yes, the main character is Harut, and yes, we are watching the women grow into such soldiers, but ultimately, the males held quite a strong role and presence within this book, particularly Kadane, Carla Fucelli, the colonel, Ettore, the photographer. All these male characters were pivotal in the book and provided a very good aspect of, you know, that time in the war and the different points of view. So the book was, I guess, an incredible book. I just don't know where to put it. You know, it could be considered a masterpiece, but for me, I also felt it was, you know, quite hard to get through. People have really mixed reviews for this book, by the way. I'm sure a lot of you have looked on YouTube and watched your favorites discuss this book. There are definitely mixed reviews. We have people who absolutely love this book, and I highly recommend you watch Zim Reads. He gives an incredible an account of this book. He absolutely adored this book. So jump on and watch his review if you'd like to hear someone's point of view that gave the Shadow King I think it would have been a 10 out of 10 for him. And then if you want to listen to someone give an account that was mostly disappointed with the book or didn't enjoy it as much, KD Books had a really good review, and I think he rated it a 2 stars. So yeah, I would say that I sit in the middle with that. I would give this book a 6 out of 10. I just really appreciated reading about, you know, this time of a war that I really didn't have a lot of knowledge about, and I really just appreciated Marza Mengiste's viewpoints. In saying that as well, I also felt somewhat manipulated by Marza Mengiste's account of the events. So as we know, this is fictional in that the characters are fictional, but the events are mostly true, and I did a lot of research on the events and what happened over this period, because I really didn't know a lot about this war. And I just would have liked to have been able to conclude or make conclusions of my own without her really giving me her own insight of what she thought I needed to get out of a particular moment in time. Her descriptions of photos were all in her point of view. She wanted us to look at parts of the photo that mattered to her. She wanted us to draw from those pictures emotions and feelings that she felt, or that Hirut would have felt looking at these pictures. And I found that a little laborsome, because I would have liked to have maybe seen a picture myself, or to be given different viewpoints. I just felt like Mars Mengistu was really giving me her thoughts and opinions. I also thought it was really interesting that we don't really know if the photos that Hirut was looking at through her box while she was at the train station were those of Ettore, which I would assume they would be, because he was taking most of the photos for the Colonel at the time. So I would say that out of 10, I would give this book a 6, as I mentioned. I would not be surprised if this won the Booker for 2020. You know, I said that about Shuggie as well, but you know, I think ultimately from a literary offering, this has the most by far on the Booker shortlist, with its style, its writing, the lyrical nature of the prose, the events that we're reading about, the power that women demonstrate in this book, and the exploration of women in power. I also think that this is a book that only Mars Mengistu could have written. So that's my reviews on Shuggie, Bain and the Shadow King. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening to that. Now, I really want to know what you all think. If you felt similarly to me, if you had a different viewpoint, if one of these books were your absolute favorites, or you agree that they kind of sat in the middle for you, or you didn't like it at all, I would love to talk to you all and hear your thoughts. I definitely, like I said, I'm halfway through this Mournable Body, and I am really enjoying this writing style. It is different, that is for sure. I will provide a prediction before the announcement as well, or not so much a prediction, but I guess a general discussion on all the books and what I would say would be a really good contender, and whether that related to me enjoying that book as that much. Yeah, so I will let you go, and thank you so much for watching. Please like my video and subscribe to my channel. But that's all for me today. I would see you in my next video, and yeah, bye.